All right, folks. Make it sick. We start today with Anki flashcards, as usual. What will we have for Anki flashcards? Just one today. What are the 14 claims the authors make and make it sick? There's a direct relationship between effort and learning. We're often poor judges of when we're learning. Rereading and mass practice of skill are among the most popular techniques for studying and learning, but the evidence shows that they are not very effective in most cases, especially rereading. Mass practice, I'm still, well, this is their claim, so I'll cut it there. Retrieval practice is more effective than rereading and reviewing notes. Interleaved and spaced retrieval practice leads to more difficulty, which can feel like it's less productive, but it actually is more productive as we've already established a relationship between effort and learning. 6, attempting a skill or attempting to perform something or do a skill or whatever. Attempting something before learning it leads to deeper learning once you have learned it. 7, the idea that sticking to learning resources that are in line with your preferred learning method or modality, the claim that leads to more effective learning is not supported by science. What is supported by science is going broad and using multiple different modalities for learning, maybe kinesthetic, visual, auditory, verbal, etc. 8, is the ability to discriminate what makes two closely related things different, like the underlying principles that cause a difference in identity, is a skill that can be trained through interleaved and varied practice, and it is a skill that leads to greater ability to distinguish key differences among novel things in the future that are closely related. 9, shoot. Okay, we're on 9. Oh, we're so close. Oh, we're all susceptible to illusions of knowing and illusions to what our abilities actually are, whether we think our abilities are greater than they are or less than they are. We often have a bad assessment of our abilities, and practice testing helps to better calibrate our understanding of our own abilities and knowledge. 10, all learning requires previous learning. 11, the bigger picture you have, the more information that you can connect new information to, the more effective, the faster, and the deeper the learning. 12, a characteristic of mastery or deep expertise, the ability to identify, the ability to extract the key principles and big ideas from a resource / subject, develop a mental model around built by those deep principles and big ideas, and then connect that mental model to other mental models that you have. 13, there's no known limit to how much we can learn using elaboration. 14, learning physically changes the brain. We can become smarter. Got him. That's how we do it, boys and girl. All right, there we go. We'll see that card next in 6 days. Now, let's recall what we did yesterday. Dang, it's always hard to recall what we did yesterday. It gets blurry. What do we do? We did not start. Okay, we answered some of the questions about what these sections are about. I believe we finished the illusions of knowing subsection. And what do we gain from reading that illusions of knowing subsection? Basically, that testing. Here's something. Testing has 2 parts, 2 benefits that make practice testing the most effective learning technique. That is one, it helps us to understand where our weaknesses are and what we need to practice to, like where we should put our attention and effort to gain uh, or build up our mastery in our weaknesses. So it helps us identify our weaknesses, areas that need more work, and two, it's a practice of retrieval, which means it's physically growing the brain, changing the brain. It's super effective for learning technique. Okay. We also read about the classic scenario that professors go through in which a student comes to them and wants to talk to them about their poor grade, their poor test grade, and they're like, well, I tried so hard. The student thinks they're a great, diligent student, but the teacher's like, what did you do for studying? Well, he attended all the lectures, he took notes, then he highlighted the notes and the text that were hard for him, and then he kept rereading those highlighted notes until they're like ingrained in him, and then he failed the test or got a D or whatever. And the professor's like, well, did you do retrieval practice? Did you try to mind map the big ideas? Did you try to quiz yourself as you went through? Did you try to quiz yourself on the big ideas? Were you using spaced repetitions, this and that? And they're like, no, really, they just reread, highlighted, crammed. Of course, those are the least effective techniques, so it's no wonder that they didn't pass. They are a diligent student, but they didn't know how to study. Okay? And this is kind of like the sinister aspect of rereading and highlighting and cramming is that it leads to an illusion like you're learning, but in fact, you're not. And it actually is what they call poor metacognition, thinking that you know a bunch of things that you don't actually know and you can't actually apply. You're just familiar with it. And being completely oblivious to a bunch of stuff, like all the stuff that you don't know you don't know. All right, it leads to this poor metacognition of your abilities. And that's what testing can help to calibrate. There was some Secretary of State, 2002 Iraq War, saying, there's known knowns, there's known unknowns, and then there's unknown unknowns. And kind of the authors using that, those three basically models or ideas to illustrate that the poor study techniques lead to thinking that you know a bunch of stuff and that you don't know very little, right? You're oblivious to the unknown unknowns. You think there are very few, or if none, known unknowns, and then you think there's a ton known knowns. But in reality, when you get tested, you get very poor performance. Boom, that's how you do it. Okay. Anything else? That's how we do it. That's exactly what we read. And now we're in record time, 8 minutes. No more Anki cards. Got the recap. Now we're about to start our section, knowledge, not sufficient but necessary. I already kind of recapped yesterday what I think this section's about. And so I'm just going to jump in and start reading. All right, guys. Surprisingly, I found that section kind of fluid. Maybe I wasn't going as in depth as the other sections, but that just ripped the whole section, knowledge, not sufficient but necessary. And I can give you the whole recall here. Basically, the whole section is about this false dichotomy that we've created, or that is popular, that meaning there's like a division between knowledge and creativity, right? This false dichotomy, thinking that they're separate, but in reality, you need both. One does not exist without the other. You cannot or you cannot be creative without knowledge to use. Like, you need knowledge to apply creatively, right? They're one and the same. They're dependent on each other. It's not this separate thing of like, I hear this in music all the time. Well, if you study theory, you lose the ability to be creative and feel. It's like, no. And it's the same with like, if you memorize and you spend too much time preparing for standardized testing, it's gonna make you not creative. It's gonna make you we rather be creative and spend time working on creativity. Again, no, you need knowledge to apply creatively, right? You can't be creative without previous knowledge to apply. So I think this is mostly coping. It's mostly coping of people being like, creativity sounds fun and easy. Learning sounds hard. Knowledge sounds difficult, uncertain, hard. Well, creativity is better, right, guys? Well, there's also an Albert Einstein quote that says creativity is more important than knowledge or whatever, but it's a false dichotomy, and you wouldn't want to see they use examples of like neurosurgeon wearing a shirt like creativity is more important than knowledge. Like, no, that would be the last thing you want to see when you're going in for your like vital critical brain surgery, or you're a pilot, or anyone that has like your life is dependent on, right? So it's false. I personally, it's my take that it's just like coping of like being like, well, we like to think, want to do easy things and we want to avoid hard things. So creativity, guys, right? Knowledge, standardized testing. That's dumb. No, it's gonna make them not creative, right, guys? No, I don't like it. Anyway, and then they kind of go into this like idea of mastery being like, they use an analogy of building a home, and it's like knowledge is like you're stocking up the work site with all the materials you need. The steel, the wood, the shingles, the sinks and the toilets and the tiles and the wood floors and the paint. You're stocking up all the raw materials. That's the knowledge, but you also need for mastery conceptual understanding of how these things interact, like the heat transfer, how to keep things warm that need to stay warm, and things that cool and that need to stay cool, and like how physics works, and how much load, like how much force some steel beam can hold, and roof truss system, and all this other like physical and chemical like conceptual understanding. So kind of they're saying they kind of were just talking about mastery, needing both the ingredients, knowledge, and a conceptual understanding. And with both, then you can be creative. You can apply, the ingredients creatively once you have the conceptual understanding and the raw ingredients. Okay. So what was this section about? This is something I've been doing now, right at the beginning of the section. What is this section about? And this section is about the false dichotomy of knowledge versus creativity. All right, guys, next up, we're going to be reading about testing, dipstick versus learning tool. Oh, and also that mastery comes from an accumulation of knowledge and conceptual understanding over time through different types of practices, reflection, mental rehearsal, etc. Varied practice. So testing, dipstick versus testing, dipstick versus learning tool. Wow, we're here. This is the second to last section, but then there's only another page basically section. So this section is now a page and a half, and given that I have about 4 minutes left, and there's 4 paragraphs, I might just try and finish the section right now. Let's do it. Okay, I kind of doubled back. I'm not going to finish that section right now because there's a lot in that first paragraph. So testing dipstick versus learning tool, right? This section kind of opens up with it being kind of the statement that like it's common sentiment, a popular belief, popular like opinion that people don't like testing and standardized testing, or just testing in general. Gets people up in arms like, no, it's not accurate, it's dumb, it wastes time, focus on memorization. So there's a lot of here's the points, major points that people get up in arms about testing and standardized testing. It puts stress on the students, undue stress on the students. It leads to a false assessment of actual learning and understanding and knowledge. It overemphasizes memorization rather than conceptual understanding and creative skills, or like an ability to apply. It's not a good measurement of or like a marker for educational goals. But this is all looking at learning as a dipstick, as a measurement tool. But what if we look at testing? This is all looking at testing as a measurement tool, a dipstick, rather than what if we looked at testing as a learning tool, as a way to actually retrieve things and actually strengthen knowledge and strengthen understanding and learn more. So use it as a learning technique rather than just a measurement tool. And that's where I ended that. That was just the first paragraph. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. We are now very close, actually, to finishing the first chapter. I think this is episode 13, maybe 14. So I never thought we would see the day. I never thought we would see the day where we would get to the end of chapter 1. So we're not there yet. It might be another 2 days, but we're nearing the end of chapter 1. Today we did the 14 claims Anki card. We reviewed yesterday's work and learning about kind of like that story of the student, and then the poor metacognition comes from poor learning techniques. We read the section today about knowledge not sufficient but necessary, and that false dichotomy between knowledge and creativity, and kind of some elements of mastery, the accumulation of both knowledge and understanding through lots of practice and effort over time, and mental rehearsal and strategy and teaching, like mentorship and teachers, resources, etc. And then we started the section on a dipstick versus learning tool. We saw that people are they don't like testing and standardized testing for the reasons we just listed. But what if we reframe testing not as a dipstick but as a learning tool? And so that's going to end up wrapping up for today. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.